Deconverted Man here. Islam. Where to begin? It's one of the major three world religions. It's growing in size, infiltrating various parts of the world in different ways, using politics, using violence, using any methods available to do it to gain followers, to gain power, to gain a dominance over the world. Islam, after all, is the final prophetic message. There can't be any others after it, even though there have been, but those, of course, are false. Islam's the true religion and the religion of peace. Not sure how it obtained that moniker, but that's what it is. Islam also, in part, started the so-called New Atheist movement, the four horsemen of atheism, Dawkins, Hitchens, etc. They wrote books because of Islam, specifically because of 9/11. This is really the start of it all as far as atheism exploding into the zeitgeist. Atheism had always existed, but once these books were written by prominent figures about religion in general, it became something to go after. But it wasn't centered on specifically Islam or Muslims or combination thereof, even though that's where it started. Look how bad religion is. Look at what it caused. Look how bad this is. Okay. Other religions aren't doing that. They've done stuff in the past, but they're not doing anything now. Islam hasn't caught up to the rest of the world in terms of some sort of refinement. The Jews have rather barbaric ideas encoded in the Torah. There's 613 commands. Many of them result in death by stoning if you don't obey them. But Jewish people do not live this way. They do not take people to the edge of town to stone them to death if they don't obey the rules. They don't capture people during war and hold them as a slave. They don't do many of these practices anymore. And the stated reason broadly is that the temple doesn't exist. They can't do animal sacrifices. So they can't do these other laws either. But I strongly suspect that these laws wouldn't be followed today because, well, the people of the world wouldn't allow them to be followed. We wouldn't want to see children dragged to the edge of town and stoned to death, or people killed because they were accused of rape, or abortions happening after a magical potion was drunk. You might think that Christians have it better off. After all, Jesus was kind of a laid back dude. He had nice teachings. Christians don't live by the standards set by their prophet either. And although Jesus' message might seem benign, if anyone actually attempted to follow it, they would soon find themselves in not a very good situation. Jesus says quite clearly, sell everything and follow me. Well, what Christian has done that? Almost none. Maybe one, maybe two have actually done that, sold everything they had, and followed Jesus. Don't worry about washing your hands. Do Christians not do that? No, of course. No. What are the other things that Jesus said? The end is right around the corner. Is it, though? What do you mean by that? Well, it's not really that, but, treat your neighbor as yourself. Do Christians really do that? The light airiness of Christian might seem benign, but again, if they really follow Jesus, live by the sword, die by the sword, a tooth for a tooth, well, that's for place. It's inconsistent. His sayings are inconsistent, so it'd be very difficult, if not impossible, to really follow Jesus' teachings. But whatever the teachings are, we've seen that Christians can and will act in terrible ways in the past, taking over other people in the name of God. Because if God's on your side, well, who can stand against you? The Crusades, Spanish Inquisition, never expected them. And other things that the Christians have done or participated in, the Catholic Church, of course, the scandals of the Catholic Church in relation to pedophilia. All of this is bad stuff. But mostly, Christianity had its time of running wild and then calmed down. Same with the Jews. They had their time of running wild, then they calmed down. Islam came around. And it did what religions do, wipe out all the current beliefs of the people there. That's first of all. You got to establish your religion as the only one. So whatever the beliefs were of the Muslims at the time, this guy said, nope, the real God talked to me. Now you got to follow me. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to this guy. Don't listen to that guy. Listen to this. This is the real God talking. And so you have a blending of ideas and myths into one, with one person at the focal point leading the charge named Muhammad. Peace be upon him. You're supposed to say that for some reason. I'm not sure why. Britannica outlines Islam's beliefs as follows. Said sometime in the 7th century, Muhammad created it. The word Islam means surrender to Allah. Yes, give up to God. Give everything. Your life. God owns you. You must do whatever God wants you to do. Whatever the book says that God wants you to do, you better do it. There's no questions here. There's no allowance for disagreement. This is what you must do because God said to do it. There's messengers who have told God's message. Abraham, Adam, Moses, Jesus. The Quran is what we are familiar with. It's the sacred scripture, the holy scriptures, and it's the revelations of God to Muhammad. And then he's the prophet, and then some of his sayings and deeds are recounted in the Sunnah, which is another book that's really important. There's 5 pillars of Islam: profession of faith in both God and his prophet, prayer, charity, pilgrimage, and fasting. Sharia. Well, we've heard of Sharia. It's law. So that embraces the total way of life commanded by God. When polled, Muslims worldwide, the majority of them wanted Sharia law in place. They wanted Sharia law to be active in their society. Sharia law has many things that non Muslims would not like. Islam is not a good religion, but none of the other religions are. They're not, and none of them are good. But they, that is, the followers of this, go out of their way to physically get rid of people who say things about Islam, broadly speaking. Now, many of you might recall Draw Muhammad Day, which sadly, I think, dropped off the map. Atheists used to do this all the time. Why do we not do it anymore? Why did it stop? I don't know. It's just kind of people forgot about it. Everybody draw Muhammad Day. 2010 event in support of artists threatened with violence for representations of Muhammad. There was a South Park episode, of course, and that led to death threats. A drawing of Muhammad was posted on April 20th, and everybody should do it. Molly Norris created artwork, and of course Trey Parker and Matt Stone depicted Muhammad in South Park. So, and there was a person, Theo, who was stabbed and shot to death because of what he had done depicting Muhammad or Islam. And so this was a response, and it lasted for a while, and people would do it, and it was popular for quite some time. But then again, it just kind of faded out of popularity. We don't seem to do this anymore. There was a famous cartoonist that had gotten killed, and so yeah, you get killed if you draw Muhammad. Why? Why? Because you're not allowed to draw Muhammad. Well, I understand if you guys want to not do that, that's fine, but I'm not part of your religion. You don't get to say what I get to do. Oh, no, we do. Okay. You get to kill me for doing it? Yeah, apparently so. Recently watched a video from Godsad, talking about Jew hatred. It's well worth a watch if you haven't watched it. I learned a good deal of things from it, and he does speak of Islam in the talk. You might know what? Why? Why would he bring up Islam? Is it peaceful? And he has this chart with all these different points that show what he thinks. Is this a peaceful religion? That's what it claims. Let's find out. So he did contemporary FBI data. He did historical analysis. He did content analysis of canonical text, data on converts, government lists of terrorist groups, ISIS membership, data from global indices, plight of religious minorities, global surveys, database of terror attacks, all pointing to whether or not Islam was peaceful or not. Well, why? Well, because Islam keeps on attacking Jewish people. Why? I don't know. And so he has this survey here that he did on Twitter, or this question that he posed, saying since 9/11, in nearly 70 countries, 44,000 some odd terror attacks were committed in the name of one religion. What religion is it? Well, Islam. But how did 10% of people voting vote for Judaism? Well, because it's not really Islam. No. The reason why they're attacking is all these other ideas, lone wolfmen, man-made disaster. These are all the reasons that terrorism occurred, not because of Islam. See, there's beard bullying. That's why they attacked, not because of their religion. No, it's climate change. That's why they attacked. It's Jewish conspiracy. Yes, somehow the Jewish people are behind Islam attacking Jewish people, because that makes sense. I don't know. Just seems to me maybe the simplest answer is the religion says kill people that aren't in your religion. It says it. It's in their book. And it also has some provision of, well, you don't need to kill them. You can tax them instead. But if they don't pay that tax, then you kill them. Atheists? Oh, we'd be dead. We're dead. We're screwed. Don't go to an Islamic-run country and pronounce, hey, I'm an atheist, you're dead. Gay people thrown off of buildings. Whether they were actually gay or not, who knows? But they were thrown off buildings. Ouch. That doesn't seem very nice. But weirdly and oddly, in the quote-unquote media, suddenly a term was coined at some point. I don't know who started it or when. Islamophobia. Islamophobia. What does it mean to be Islamophobic? It's an irrational fear, hatred of, or prejudice against the religion of Islam or Muslims in general, especially when perceived as a geopolitical force or a source of terrorism. The causes of increased Islamophobia across the world since 1990 are many. Well, I don't know. It just seems to me that you have pretty good reasons to fear a religion when it's doing stuff that's bad. So this seems like a perfectly normal response. Now, I would be against it if it was irrational. Rational. Yeah, I'm against irrational. I like rational. I like logic. So is it actually irrational? Now, hatred, I'm not in favor of hating. I'm in favor of being skeptical. That is, to hold in question the ideas of it. Fear, maybe caution would be warranted. I don't know about fear. You shouldn't be prejudiced because each individual is different. Some people that are holders of Islam as a religion are going to be benign. They're not going to want to harm a non-Islam person. They just want to live and let live. They want to do what they want to do, and they want to be left alone, so to speak. Hey, more power to them. More props to those people that are peaceful and not doing bad stuff. But there are definitely people doing bad stuff who are Islams and say, Allah Akbar, and they blow up stuff. And yet the media will say, oh, that wasn't a real Islam person. That wasn't actually Islam. And even the Islam apologists will say, that person that blew up that thing, he's not a real Islam person. Oh, okay. But this became a way to, a term to use to shut down conversations, perhaps. Not saying that it is, but it could be used that way. Well, could anti-Semitism be used in the same way? Could saying you're a racist be used in the same way? Yes. But this is a unique term that appeared rather early in our timeline. It appeared in the 1990s. Not before that. It wasn't an idea. It was an invented word This, my friends, my robots, my fellow whatever you are, is artificial language. It's not natural language. It's defined as one thing and one thing only. We know what this is and how it works. This word was introduced into the lexicon not in a normal way. Okay, so what? Who cares? Who cares? Mostly Islam is peaceful. They're not doing anything bad lately. Oh, what's that? What's going on in Israel? Oh, no. That's yeah, whatever. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about what's going on there. Yeah, nothing to see here. Well, it's Israel. They're the bullies, though. They're stronger than, and then they've killed a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're killing people. Yeah, people are killing people. It sucks. That's war for you. Who's right? Well, they're both wrong, but they're more wrong because reasons and I don't know. When exploring Islam apologetics, this is where I can have something to say of relevance, perhaps, because I can analyze the arguments. I can point out the logical fallacies. But the arguments made by Islam are the exact same arguments that every other apologist makes. The cosmological argument. The Kalam comes from Islam. William Lane Craig stole his argument from the Muslims. I guess that makes them the actual true religion, because William Lane Craig, peace be upon him, has to use their argument to prove God. But he's not proving Allah, he's proving Yahweh. I don't really know if there's a difference. But their arguments are exactly the same. There is no difference. The moral arguments, the Kalam, all those they're the same. So all I'd be doing is addressing the same old. And of course, the problem is many Islamic apologists upload their videos in a language I don't speak, so I can't cover those videos. But I thought, I need to do something. I need to address Islam, because I've addressed Christianity a lot. It's all over the place. It's easy. Hey, look. Oh, one other thing Godsad said. This was a really interesting challenge he had. I don't recommend doing his challenge, but he said, I want you to tweet out something really vile and horrible against Jewish people and include your home address. See how well that goes. Then do it again for Christians. See how well that goes. Then do it for Islam and see if you get killed. Who's going to kill you first is the question, I don't think I'd do that. I don't think I'd do that for any of them, because they all could kill you. But who's more likely to kill you for doing it? Come on. But at any rate, what people do in the religion tells us nothing about the claims that religion makes. So if all the people were benign and peaceful and loving and wonderful people and helpful to everybody all the time, that wouldn't tell us that the religion is true. It would just tell us that it's very useful to society. If nobody in Islam attacked anyone for anything ever, that'd be great. Wouldn't tell us if the teachings are true or false. We have to look at the argument that is being made. So, you got to start somewhere at some level. And here's somebody saying some stuff. Maybe he has some arguments to make. Now, these are the toughest atheist questions in 1 minute, because answering things quickly is fun or something. I don't know. I think that if you really want to answer a question, you really want to address something, it's going to take time to do so. And that's probably why my videos are long. Also, I tend to ramble. But when I edit videos, they're shorter sometimes. Not always, but usually. I don't know. Anyways, whatever. So I'm going to respond to this video. where he answers the toughest atheist questions by saying why or how he got the answer wrong or whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do this. So that's where I'm starting. And maybe I'll keep doing stuff about Islam for a while. Or maybe this video will disappear and I'll pretend like I never did this. By the way, if anyone's wondering, my actual name is Gurmania. And so if anyone, for any reason wants to get me, that's who I really am, is Gurmania. Yeah. I'm just using the account of Deconverted Man, but I'm actually Gurmania. Anyways.
Ali Dawa, you have 1 minute for each question.
You ready?
Are you ready?
Can you prove God's existence in 1 minute?
Let's look at Google. In order for Google to exist, we need the internet. In order for the internet to exist, we need the computer or our telephones or our tablets. In order for the computer to exist, there has to be human beings that create it, and etc. It relies on electricity. The question follows is the following. Google relies on the internet relies on the computer relies on us and electricity, and this goes on. We cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. We require a place where it all stops and makes sense, which is the independent, self-sufficient, necessary being, which is God.
Why?
Okay, so an argument from or to analogy is valid only if the analogy is valid. So computers, the internet requires the computers, etc. Yeah, okay, that's all fine. Is any of that linked in a coherent manner to a God? Well, he's suggesting that everything has some cause or something that sustains it, keeps it going. So the parts that I observe, that is the computer, the internet, these are all things I observe. The internet requires the computer requires electricity, these require phone lines, there's all these dependencies. They all depend on something else. They depend on humans to keep them going. And, and then that dependency you can rewind that, keep going back and back and back, and we're all dependent on the earth. And, but what's the earth dependent on? Well, the earth is dependent on the sun and gravity, but what's that dependent on? Well, that's dependent on the universe and the laws of physics. Well, what's that dependent on? And you can keep asking the question and go, well, at some point, you have to have a stopping point. You can't keep asking the question. Why not? Well, because you just can't. That's not really an answer to just assert you can't keep going indefinitely. Why not? Well, because I don't want you to. I don't like it. I don't think it makes sense to keep going indefinitely. Well, whether it makes sense or not doesn't matter. If that's the way things are, then that's the way things are. If that's how it works, then that's how it works. If it's universes all the way down indefinitely, then that's what it is. If it's turtles all the way down, then it's turtles all the way down. Of course, it's not turtles. It's lobsters. If the universe is cyclic, then that's that's how that works. Whatever is the case of reality, that is how it works. There was a video I just had watched talking about the hourglass universe and how this is from Phil Halpler, Skydive Phil. Watched this video. Very good, very informative, very interesting. The hourglass universe versus the Kalam argument, and how if it's true, if the hourglass idea is true, this just destroys the Kalam completely. And yeah, it would. The Kalam has all these assumptions built into it regarding cosmology that just don't align with our current understanding of the universe. But then when you think of other possible universes, it gets you, or how the universe works, it gets even more of a problem. So here's one diagram they had showing, universe coming from a universe. So that could be the case. And it kind of looks like an hourglass. You have a universe, and then you have this universe. And whichever universe we're in, it doesn't matter to us. We don't know about that universe. We know about that universe. We know about the one on the right, not the one on the left, or vice versa. And you also had universes stacked on universes at some point. I thought that was cool. But at any rate, so a true infinite could exist. There's nothing to prevent it, logically speaking. So just asserting that it has to stop isn't an answer. For it to qualify as an answer, you'd have to demonstrate not that it must do it, but that is the actual situation. You would need to demonstrate that there is a thing that is uncaused, whatever that is. How would you demonstrate that? You need some model, first of all. If you want to do it in science, you'd need a model. But of course, wouldn't the problem apply to the thing itself? Wouldn't it be that God, who's always existed, also is infinite? Now, if it's okay for God to be infinite, why is it not okay for other things to be infinite? Why does God get a special pass? Now, if this sounds all very familiar, that's because it is. These are the same exact arguments that other apologists have. It just has to be that God is the uncaused cause. Right, God? Right. Okay. So, why are you the uncaused cause? Well, because you are. You've always existed, though. So it's not that there's not an infinity. It's just that you are the infinity. So it's okay when it's you. It's not okay when it's not you, right? That's just how that works. What causes God? Nothing. Nothing causes God. God causes God. Okay, so when God wants to do something, God's like, hey, I want to do something, right? And God's like, I'm going to do something right now. I'm going to make the universe or something. I want to do this thing. Okay, but before God thinks of universe, right? What caused God to think of the universe? Well, God had to cause God to think of the universe, right? But then to get that thought going, God had to think about that thought going. And then to get that thought going, God had to think about that. And in order for that to happen, there had to be that. And in order for that to happen, there had to be that. And in order for that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and it keeps going indefinitely, and you still have an infinite chain. But there has to be a starting point. Why? Why does there have to be a starting point? It just makes sense. But that's not an answer. It's not an argument. It has to start here. It can't start here. It can't start here. It has to start, well, at the start, which only makes sense if that start has no start and has always existed, which means it also has no start, but that's not really a starting point because it's always been, so it breaks its own rules, but that's okay because it's God. It can do that. All right, yeah, sure, why not? We've heard it before, we'll hear it again. So nothing new under the sun. An infinite cause could be the case. But even if you say, look, I don't like that. I don't like this infinity chain. It's got to have a start. Okay, that doesn't mean it's God. You asserted that it was God. You didn't demonstrate that it was God. You listed off attributes that you think are there and those attributes align with what you think God is, but all of that will require further arguments, further proof, further data. And you haven't offered us anything other than a bald assertion. This is how it is. Okay, prove it.
Can't the necessary being be the universe?
Well, that's good that you say that, because first it shows that you acknowledge with me that we require a necessary being. That's good. All you've done is applied this to the universe. And we say that contradicts the necessary being, because the necessary being is independent, self-sufficient, and is necessary. The universe is not self-sufficient and dependent. It's opposite. So you can't have this be that, because it contradicts.
Can God create a rock?
Okay, so the universe can't be the cause of the universe. Okay, sure. How about reality? Yeah, reality. Whatever reality is, the state of reality, that's what caused the universe. It's not an agent. It's not a mind. It's not that it wanted to do it. It's just that the nature of reality caused the universe. Why can't that be the answer? It could be the answer, but we don't like that answer. Why? Well, because it's not the answer I want. It's not God. I need the answer to be God. So obviously it's God. Yeah, but it's a possible answer. It's as possible as any other possible answer. There's nothing illogical about saying that reality itself created the universe, because it had to, because that's its nature. Yeah, the nature of reality, the nature of God. The two are essentially the same. If you can assert God, you can assert reality. But the difference is, when you assert a God, you assert a mind. And a mind needs a further explanation. Whereas reality itself can be the sum total of the explanation. The way that reality functions, the physics, the laws that are always there and always must be there, allow for a universe to begin to exist. And not just one, but maybe multiple, maybe all the time, everywhere, simultaneously. Then the universes push each other apart, so they never get to see each other. They're always happening. There's one being born right now, and there's one dying just now. And it's happening all the time. And in them, creatures are living and dying and asking how they got there. There's somewhere else in this universe where some other nitwit is on his computer arguing about lobsterist and how that's false, because on that world, the lobsterist is an actual religion. Why not? But he doesn't like that answer. So that's not the answer, because another bald assertion. All right.
That he can't lift?
I mean, this is an invalid question. When people ask this question, it's like a valid question. I can ask the question, can God cease to exist? Of course not. It's contradictory. It's like me saying, how many days in a week? Yes or no? Yes or no? It's not a yes or no question. I have to ask how many days of a week? 7. So the point is, the question is invalid. So to say, can God create a rock so big that he can't lift? Then the moment he creates that, he becomes not powerful because he can't lift it. There's no such thing that exists. It's just a question that is asked for the sake of it.
Okay, so he doesn't answer the question, which doesn't really surprise me. So can God make something that it can't control? Can God do a paradox? That's what the question is asking. Why? Well, because God is said to be all-powerful. So we're asking what it means to be all-powerful. What does that statement imply? Because if you say you can do anything, then you can do anything, right? And somebody comes along and goes, well, but can you? I bet there's something you can't do. Oh, you can't do something impossible. Oh, there's nothing impossible for me. I can do anything. Can you do something that you can't do? There's nothing I can't do. Okay, can you make something that you no longer can interact with? Well, I mean, I could do anything, right? So yes, I make that thing. I can't interact with it. All right, can you interact with that thing? No. So you can't do anything anymore. See, before you said you could do anything. The moment that you made the thing that you could no longer interact with, you created something that negates your ability to do anything. Yeah, that's true. Right. So it's not true that you can do anything. If this paradox sounds perhaps a bit familiar, I'll remind you of Jim Bob. Yes, his argument, if you can call it that, which basically says, if materialism or if reality is true, then true and false aren't really true or false, so therefore it's not true. Okay, great. So basically, if God doesn't exist, there isn't logic. There is logic, so God exists. Or if you say, well, there isn't a God, so then you're saying logic doesn't exist. So then the argument then can't work because logic doesn't work. See? So God has to exist for logic to work. The argument doesn't work. Why? Because the law of non-contradiction. You can't make an argument that negates itself. I can't say, if this argument contains the logical fallacy, then logic stops working. Lobsters exist, therefore, logic stops working. Wait, there is a fallacy in that argument. Premise one, if lobsters exist, logic doesn't work. Premise two, lobsters exist. Conclusion, logic doesn't work. Oh, wait, no, but you can't do that. Why? Because it doesn't work. But no, yeah, I know that, but I'm saying that but if it's valid, then it's not valid, right? The law of non-contradiction says no. You can't have a paradox. No paradox is allowed. All right. So what that means then is anything that you state that becomes false by saying it cannot actually be true. I am a liar. I always lie. Everything I say is a lie. What about that you just said? That's a lie. Well, but then that makes it true. So it can't be that I always lie. The paradox collapses in on itself. It is not true that I am always lying. Pinocchio says, my nose will now grow. Well, is he lying? If he's lying, his nose grows. If he's not lying, then wait, no, but then his nose grows when he lies. He says, my nose will now grow, which is only true when he's lying. So it's not true. What he said isn't true. So then the nose has to grow, but then it is true. So Pinocchio can never say that statement. Or if he did, his nose would grow. But you're like, but why? But wouldn't it not? But wouldn't it be a lie that it grew? But then it's true. Yes, because it has to be. Because it has to be not true because of the law of non-contradiction. I covered that at some point. So when you say, God, can you make a rock so heavy that you can't lift it? In other words, can you do something impossible? God says, no, I can't do something impossible. So you can't do anything. Well, but anything doesn't include impossible things because they are impossible, right? So it's not a thing. An impossibility isn't a thing then, right? So you're not all powerful. Well, I'm all powerful in the sense that if it's possible to do, then I can do it. Well, then that's different though than all powerful. See, I thought all powerful meant you could do impossible stuff, but it turns out that all powerful doesn't mean that. So you're reframing what it must mean to be all powerful. What it must mean is that you can only do things that are logically possible to do, and that nothing can ever do a paradox, including God. So, no is the answer. God cannot make a rock so heavy it cannot lift, because to do so would be impossible. God can only do the possible, which negates true omnipotence. You'd have to re-render the word as logically potent. But they like the word omnipotent, and so they stick with the word even though it doesn't work. That's what the argument is, or what the question rather is asking. What is the nature of omnipotence? Because the true nature of omnipotence is it can't be a thing. You can't have omnipotence. Not for real. You can only have logically potent. That's it. You can't have an actual omnipotent. You can have logically potent. That's it. That's as best as you're going to get. Can't have any more than that because it's impossible. All right. So that's the actual answer to the question. Took longer than a minute. So back to this. All right.
Can't there be more than one creator?
No, because then we go back to the argument of necessary being. If there was more than one creator, then the question is, how could you have one necessary being which is self-sufficient, independent? If there is another creator, then it's dependent. It's not necessary anymore. So the question is, if there was two creators, firstly, Allah says in the Quran, they would fight each other for power. Yeah? So that shows two powers fighting each other are dependent because they require more power to kill the other one. So that's why we believe there has to be one necessary being that is self-sufficient, independent, and necessary.
Okay, so you're going to use the holy book to justify your answer, which is a problem. Why would they fight each other, though? Yeah, your book says that they would, but why would they? If they both have equal power and they both have equal knowledge, they know that neither one of them can beat the other one. So why would they ever fight? That's silly. Nobody can ever win that fight. Nobody can ever lose that fight. You say it's necessary. Okay, but why is it not that two beings are necessary? That you have to have two beings. That's the necessary amount of beings to have. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to say that there's a necessary thing, okay, there's two necessary things. And both have to exist simultaneously for anything else to exist. But they depend on each other. Yes, that's the necessary part of them existing is that they have to have each other. But then they're dependent on each other. Right. That's it. That's how that works. It works just as well. There's nothing that negates that. It's just an assertion that can't be that way. But I don't like but it's better when it's one. But it could be two, could be 100. If they're all necessary beings, then they are all necessary. But they depend on each other. Well, they only work when there's 100 of them. That's how that works. They're all necessary, equally necessary. They don't depend on each other. But if you don't have 100, then it doesn't work. So that's it. It's not an answer to the question because the answer is you could have as many as you want and it's still a necessary being. Because what that means is fully dependent on what you think is necessary. If I think it's necessary to have two beings, then that's what necessary means. Oops. Oh well, anyways.
God created everything. So who created God?
Well, the question is invalid. Once again, it's an invalid question. Just because somebody asks this question doesn't mean it's a valid question. Because what we say is we see cause and effect within our universe. It requires a designer. To come and say who created that designer is you haven't understood who the designer is. It goes back to the issue of the necessary being. What's the attribute? It's independent. It is self-sufficient. It is necessary. If you acknowledge these attributes, these three things, yeah, you need to acknowledge that the question of who created God, can God make a rock so big he can't lift, can God cease to exist, are questions that are not valid.
Well, these are all just bald assertions that you're making. You're not proving that they're true. You're just saying that they're true. Why couldn't God stop existing? I mean, maybe it was necessary to start things, But if everything goes according to plan and God's not needed anymore, because God put everything it needed in place, and God's like, well, I'm done here. Or maybe it exhausted itself. Maybe it ran out of energy. Maybe it exploded, and its explosion caused the Big Bang, even though the Big Bang's not really a bang, but whatever. Maybe its death made the universe. Why not? There's nothing illogical with that unless you want to insist that no, I know what God is. And that's what this is. That's what's going on. Is I know God is X, Y, and Z. And if you agree that God is X, Y, and Z, then you can't ask the question. Right, yes, but I don't agree that God is X, Y, and Z. So I can ask the question. And the question is in reference to everything has to be made. Well, everything but God has to be made. God can just exist because it's necessary for it to exist. Okay, so you have to have God. Yes. You can't not have God. Yes. Why? Well, because I said so. That's it. That's all that is. The necessary thing is reality. You have to have reality. Okay. Does reality exist? And God exist? Yes. Why? Because God existing has to be reality, right? Right. Okay. So we now have two things that exist. We have God and reality. They have to be separate. God can't be equal to reality. Otherwise, nothing is not God. If you want God to be separate from reality, then it has to be a separate, independent thing, which is what he's saying. God is an independent thing that exists in reality, which exists even if God doesn't exist. Reality would still have to be real. It'd still have to be there. So reality tops God. Reality then becomes the new God, but reality doesn't need a mind, because whatever attributes reality really has, or whatever attributes reality really has, you save a step. In other words, you don't need to assert God in order to get reality. You already have reality. You don't need to add that it must be a mind, that the true nature of reality must be a mind. You can't separate God from reality. But you can't have a God without reality. So then that means reality is bigger than God. If reality is bigger than God, then that's it. Then you don't need God, because you just need reality. But that's not good, because we want God. So you got to ignore that whole problem. And that's all he's doing here. He's saying, nothing created God. It always existed. Why? Well, because that's how it is. That's how it works. Well, you say that, but that's not an answer. That's just what you're saying. You're not proving it. You're not really answering the question.
Doesn't exist. The question you're asking, there's no such thing. Because if there was a God that created him, then he becomes dependent now. He's not self-sufficient anymore. So what we say is that this creator, as long as this necessary being is independent, is self-sufficient, is necessary, everything stops there.
Why Islam when there is many other religions?
Well, that's the question I asked myself before I came to Islam. Why Islam? And when I did my research and what I was born with the fitrah, there was a study done in Oxford University by Justin Barrett. He found that young kids who are not taught about Islam or Christianity or any other religion, they all had the inclination to believe in one God, not two.
I sure hope that there's a link to that study in the description. I'm sure that they're going to put a link to that in the description. No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Two, not three. So to me, I had that in myself to believe in one God. But
okay, that might be an experiment that was really done, but also the Princess Alice experiment also suggests, yeah, that's a thing. Kids tend to believe in stuff that you tell them. I'm not sure how that. Okay, does this answer the question? All right.
The question was, why Islam? I asked the same question to myself. And when I looked into it, I realized true monotheism in its true sense. Because if you go to the Christians, they say we're monotheists and they believe 3 in 1. You go to the Hindus, they say we believe 1 million gods is one. The point is this: pure monotheism in its worship and understanding of who God is only in Islam. Not
Judaism has that. So
only that, also when it comes to the Quran, it is the only scripture on this planet that is being preserved and has miracles that we can see. For example, if I go to a Christian and I say, look, I want to believe in Christianity, show me. You say Jesus gave life to the dead and this, that, with the permission of God. Show me. Or if you go to the Jews and say Moses did that, show me. Can they show you? No, they can't. If they come and say to us, what's the miracle of the Quran? We'll say, here's the Quran and we can show you, touch it. You can feel it, you can analyze it. Why? Because also we learn from this, the Quran is for all mankind.
Well, this went over a minute, so you lost your own challenge there. They just stopped the counter and gave up on that idea. But okay, fine. Don't really care about the silly challenge. You can touch the Torah. You can touch the New Testament. You can test it. Not really sure what you mean by testing it. What do you think is different about the Quran? What precisely is it that you're saying that we can test? You're saying that we can test it. Okay, great. What do you mean by that? Like, I hope he tells us, because I don't know what he means.
And you can see it, you can hear it, you can examine it. But the miracles that the other prophets done, you can never prove that. That's why that was for that time specifically. And the Quran is for all times, because we have a method, an oral tradition, which is the Quran, which we and many generations after us can examine. And that's what I did before I came to Islam. I examined it, I read it, I looked at the prophecies, I looked at the miracles. I said, this can be no other than by from Allah.
So the miracles, which you can't test because they happened in the past, the prophecies, which of course are written after the fact of them happening, which means that you can't verify that they're true prophecies, which is the exact same things that you have in Christianity and in Judaism and in every other religion. But you can supposedly test those. How? You didn't tell us. You just said, we have those. Yeah, so do the other religions. But you said, oh, these have to be true. How did you come to that conclusion? Why? How? What do you mean by study it? What do you mean by test it? How do you test any of that? What miracles are you talking about that you can test? Oral tradition, who cares? What are you saying can be tested? How do you test a prophecy? How do you test a miracle? How? How is that any different than the other religions? You didn't answer the question at all. You just said that you can do this, but you can't do it on the other ones. The other people say you can do it in theirs and not in yours. It's not an answer. You didn't tell us how to test anything. What part of the Quran can be tested and in what way? What's the methodology? What is it that I can test that it says? Something that I can go, oh, okay, if that's false, then the Quran is false. So it says something and I can check and see if that thing is true. And it can't be something mundane. It can't be something that is easy. It's got to be complicated. It's got to be something that just defies explanation. It has to be really good. So I'd like to know what that is precisely. You can't be vague. This is a vague answer. There's miracles, there's prophecies. I'm sure that you think that there are. I don't know how you would verify any miracles or prophecy. There's many problems with prophecy. Okay, so what's a prophecy? We have to start there. Okay, well, if I say tomorrow the sun will come out, is that a prophecy? Or is that just a mundane statement? If I say tomorrow Nerdy Rodent will put out a video where he explains how to make me into an AI aberration of Arkham Horror, and Nerdy Rodent happens to do that, because he totally will. Maybe tomorrow's too soon. I'll give him a week. A week from now, 7 days from now, Nerdy Rodent will totally make a video to prove my point that where he makes me a picture of me and he turns that into a Arkham Horror type of creature from the mythos of Arkham Horror, you know, the ancient gods, where you look at it and you're just like, you're driven insane by seeing it, like Cthulhu. So it's me, but as if I was an Arkham Horror creature like Cthulhu, or, you know, all those different, you know, the different ones that they have. And that's what he's going to do in 7 days. And then he does it. Does that make what I said a prophecy? Or is it that Nerdy Rodent heard me say it several times and was like, okay, Deacon Birdman, I'll do that, because it would be fun to do, and you know, I'm going to help you prove your point that this isn't a prophecy, and also I got nothing better to do, so I'll do it. Or if it doesn't happen, is it that I didn't? It must be because I'm not a true prophet. Well, no, it's Nerdy Rodent's fault, because the prophecy would have been fulfilled, but he was too lazy to do it, or like, however I have to word it so that he does this stupid thing that I want him to do. But okay, anyways. Right. Well, what makes a prophecy, right? And then you go, okay, you know the event happened. You know, you go, oh, whoever won the Super Bowl. I don't know who the hell won the Super Bowl. I don't know anything about sports. The internet will be created, you know. And it's like, oh, look, it said this guy who was alive before the internet, he said the internet would be created. Wow, he must have been a prophet. Yeah, but that was written after the internet. You wrote that after it was done. You know that it's going to happen. So when you write something after the event happened, you can have your character who exists before that event happened go, hey, this event's going to happen. And then the event happens and you go, oh, he must be a prophet. Oh, my word. So what's there to prevent that from happening, right? So it's like, there's an earthquake. Oh, you know. Oh, man, there's an earthquake. Oh, man. And this guy is like, a week before, he's like, there's an earthquake going to happen. Fun fact. Fun little tidbit I remember reading somewhere. Well, I shouldn't say fact because it's based on my memory, so it's not a fact. I have no idea. I probably should look it up before I mention it, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to do it live. Yeah. I think. Let's see if I. Yes. I was right. Haha. I remembered it right. I wasn't dreaming it. Okay, so before 9/11 happened, calls were received from multiple foreign governments, intelligence services, and stuff. So, that's conspiracy. Did that really happen? Or do people just say that happened? Well, it could have happened. That is to say, somebody somewhere could have called in and said, I think something's going to happen. People do this. People do sometimes call in to major agencies to report a gut feeling they have. And because they record that, because they have to, then that's it. If nothing happens, guess what? Stays on file for however long it stays on file, and then it goes into the archives and it's forgotten about. But occasionally, some psychic or guru will call in. Tomorrow, somebody's going to do something horrible at this location, at this time. And every now and then, they'll be right. And when that happens, and the news catches wind of it, smells like a story. Ooh, guru predicts that this is going to happen. And sometimes people are right with a complete guess. you have enough people guessing and enough people sending in their guesses about what's going to happen, somebody's bound to be right by pure luck. It's like guessing the damn lotto numbers. Yeah. Quick pick? Yeah, might as well. It's no different than whatever numbers I'm going to pick. It's random, so I might as well take a quick pick over picking the numbers myself. I have the same amount of luck either way. My odds are still the same. It affects nothing. But if you're superstitious, you're going to play the numbers you've always played. We used to play the lotto way back in the day. Same numbers every single time. Oh, look, our number came up. None of our other numbers came up, but that one came up. Yay! And every time it'd be exciting. It was on TV. It was a big deal. Then it stopped being a big deal after a while. Now it's like, yeah, we hear about it, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not a big deal anymore. I don't know. It's a poor people tax is what it really is. You're not going to win. Well, somebody won. Yeah, but that wasn't you. The likelihood of you winning is very low. Very, very low. So, but if you don't play, you can't win. Well, yeah, but it'd be more impressive if you didn't play and won anyways. That would be amazing. Anyways. Your ability or anybody's ability to say something will happen and then for that thing to happen might be by pure chance. And then we say, look at the hit, ignore all the times they were wrong. They called in 100 times with 100 different reports. We have that on file, by the way. This dude, he calls us like every day to report something. It's going to happen. And we take the call, we record it, and we put it in his file. Here's his big old file. Yeah, that's interesting. Is that going to make the news? No. Screw that. We don't want to hear about that. We want to hear about the one time that he made the accurate prediction because that's going to get us views. And maybe we'll mention it. By the way, they also said that they shit really fast because it's not as it's not cool. It's not a story. It's only a story if it's right. So if you have a prophet that says, there's going to be an earthquake and there's no earthquake, then you say, hey, that prophecy wasn't a prophecy. That was a false prophet. Are there any prophecies in the Quran, Bible, whatever, that don't come true? And then somebody goes, hey, so-and-so said blah was going to happen and didn't happen. We now know that person's a false prophet. Kill them or whatever they're going to do to them, right? It doesn't happen. They're all correct prophets, unless they're on the bad guy side. Then they're false prophets. But like your prophet is going to have all the hits. If they made a prophecy that wasn't true, we just don't include it. Could happen. You could write it that way. Nothing's stopping you. Or you could just say that your prophet was right all the time. Who's going to stop you? No one. So if we had something modern, like on X day, this is going to happen in this place, and this is what's going to happen. And you go, nobody knows about it. Like it's sealed away in a steel box, buried at a certain location underground. And it's like, it's March 5. It's time to dig it up. That's what our scroll says. Quick, dig it up for all to see. Put it on video cameras. It said that we need to record this event and broadcast it to the world. We do that. We dig it up. Quick. Open it. There's going to be a person born in America, Indiana, with the name of Blargle Sauce Bim Jilly Bob Jellybean the Third. And he is going to cry 3 times in a row. And then he's going to sneeze, and the doctor's going to say, God bless you. And the family's going to laugh and then sue the doctor for saying God because they don't like God. And then, as punishment, God is going to yeet all of those people out of the window. They're going to all fall to their deaths. But the baby, miraculously, is going to bounce off the awning and be caught by a Muslim woman who will take him in and adopt him. And that is how you will know that this is a prophecy from God. And they read it to the world. Everybody's like, well, that's pretty cool. They're like, oh, let's go to that place now. Reporting live from Gary, Indiana at the Memorial Hospital, blah, blah, blah. Is this person? Oh my God, they named their kid the thing. That's all happening. It's true. Oh, look at them fall out the window. It's all happening. Ah. That would be amazing. I'd be like, okay. And we dated the box and we dated the thing inside it. And it all happens to, we scrutinize the bleep out of it. And it's like, it's not faked. And these people, they didn't know about it. Nobody knew about it till just now. That would be, I would be like, okay, that counts. That's a prophecy. But you got nothing like that. You got nothing like it. So I'm not impressed with what you have. This isn't a thing I can test then. All right, anyway, so that's not an answer. What else we got? Oh my God, and only 5 minutes in, it's 12 minutes long. How long have I've been going an hour already? How did that happen? Aliens this year, sometime between August and September. Yeah, probably. They're prophets agencies outside the U.S. Yeah. Lions are going to win the sports bowl. Like, yeah, if Lions are playing against humans, I think that the Lions win. Like, don't the humans get torn to shreds by the... It's a very weird sport. I don't know why people do it, but okay, anyways.
You told us that there are miracles of the Quran.
Yeah.
Can you please just tell us one miracle of Quran?
Here we go.
I'm going to be generous here. I'm going to give you 3. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be generous sometimes in life, you know. The first one is, I think, very profound and very important, because what we are told, for example, that in Surah Balad, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about Abu Lahab. And this is very interesting, because Abu Lahab could make one statement and the whole of Islam will fall on the ground. Allah says in the Quran about Abu Lahab and his wife that they are going to enter the fire, hellfire. They're going to die as disbelievers and enter the hellfire. Now, if you think about it, Abu Lahab, he had to do one thing and disprove Islam. Because the Quran declares you're going to go hellfire, you and your wife, and you're going to die as a disbeliever. So the thing is this, they could have gone, Abu Lahab could have said, hold on a second, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. There you go. Your religion is false. Because your religion says I'm going hellfire. Your religion says I'm going to die as a disbeliever. I accept Islam. He didn't do it. He died as a disbeliever.
What? So... Okay, let me make sure I got this right. So the book says there's this dude that doesn't believe. You're going to die a disbeliever. And all he has to do is become a believer. And then that disproves the idea that he's gonna die as an unbeliever. Okay. Now, how does this play out in reality? Because this is obviously a story, but all right. So I'm there. I'm chilling out. Muhammad comes along. He's like, "Hey, deconverted man, you silly skeptic. You're going to go in hellfire because you're a disbeliever." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Yeah. Now write that down, people. It's really important that I said that." I'm like, "Oh, what? Wait, what? What?" "Yeah. If you now convert, then I'm wrong." "Why?" "Because I said you're going to not convert." "Okay, I convert then." "Wait, what?" "Yeah, I convert." "Don't write that down. Don't write down that he converted." "Now you believe in Islam, right?" "Yeah." "So now you're not going to die in hellfire." "Guess not." All right. We won that round. Let's go on to the next dude. Because now you're part of us, right? "Yeah, I'm absolutely part of you. Yeah, sure." All right. "Hey, you, Nerdy Rodent. How's it going, Nerdy Rodent?" "Ah, pretty good." "All right, Nerdy Rodent. Check it out. If you don't believe in my religion, you will die a disbeliever in my religion." Write that down. It's really important. "Do you believe in my religion?" No." "Okay. Write it down. Make sure it stays there." "You sure?" "Yeah." "Okay. You're going to die a disbeliever then." "Okay. All right. We'll check on you later after you die." "Okay. Hey, guys, kill him." "What?" No, don't." "Hey, we killed him." "All right, cool. All right. Make sure that it's written down that this idiot died as a disbeliever after I said that he would die as a disbeliever. All he had to do was prove me wrong, was to be a believer. and then that would mean me wrong. And then even though we wait, and then but then he believes. But then if he does believe and I'm wrong, then that means that he shouldn't believe because I'm wrong, and that's a paradox. And that goes against the law of non-contradiction, which would make this invalid. And that if he does accept, I win. So it's a paradox. Okay, so you believe the Quran is true because you have a paradoxical story which wins no matter what happens. If the guy converts, you win. If the guy doesn't convert, you win. Okay. So, but why would they ever record the story where the guy converted? Like, hey, you're gonna die of unbeliever. Okay. And then the guy's like, wait a minute, I'm gonna change my mind. And then you would just celebrate that. You'd be like, look, he converted. He believes in us now. He agreed. He came and saw the light of how true it was. Yeah. And you just say that confirms it. You win no matter what. That's not a thing. That's not a miracle. That's a paradox. You believe in a paradox. Oh man. What else you got?
To me, that is profound, because he had to do one statement to disprove the whole. They wanted to stop Prophet Muhammad, yeah, with everything. He just had to do 10 seconds of the Shahada and crumble the whole religion.
Yep. Okay, that's more than a minute again. That's twice you've gone over your limit. Give us the other miracles. I'm not impressed by this paradox.
He didn't. Number two, there is an evidence, for example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in the Quran about the time of Moses and the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, yeah? And Allah talks at the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, he calls the ruler a king. At the time of Moses, he calls him a pharaoh. But in the Bible, they call the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, and they call him a pharaoh. And at the time of Moses, they call him a pharaoh. This is historical error. Because when they deciphered the Rosetta Stone, it's a thing, to understand the Egyptian hieroglyphics, they found out that there was no pharaohs at the time of Joseph. This dynasty didn't exist. There was kings. How did the Quran know this? And they say the Quran copies the Bible. The Quran copied from the Bible. Why didn't the Quran copy the mistake? And how did it know that at the time of Joseph, the ruler is a king? There's no pharaohs. How did they know that? That's number two.
All right. Well, that was interesting to some extent, I suppose. If what you're saying about the Rosetta Stone is true, which you don't have any links to, so I'd have to verify that on my own. If what you're saying about the thing is true, which I'd have to verify somehow. Well, he could be wrong. But if it was written after the Rosetta Stone was found, then he might know about it. Calling somebody king and everybody else calls him a prophet, is that really that big of a deal? If it turns out he was wrong, would that really disprove the Quran? Like, I don't know. I'm going to have to investigate this one a bit. And it's a shame that, but it's not really that impressive, because I think there would always be a way out. Like, if it turns out he's wrong, you can always say, yeah, but he meant, this is blah, blah, blah. You'd have some apologetics for it. But it's not, it's interesting, but it's not super impressive. Like, how did he know that? I don't know. He guessed. He could have guessed correctly. That could happen. It's not that miraculous, not that magical. So who is it? Okay, so time of Moses, which we know Moses didn't exist. Okay. Okay. Yusuf. Okay. YUSUFILAYHI SALAAM. Okay. King versus Pharaoh. Which Pharaoh, king of Egypt, was in reign? Let's see. Armstrong Institute of Biblical Archaeology. King versus Pharaoh of Egypt. Evidence of the Quran accuracy over biblical error. Okay. All right. Here's something. I don't know. Let's see what this thing says. All right. Let's see what this little thing says. All right. So this is the Armstrong Institute of Biblical Archaeology. All right. The following Islamic art awareness, biblical error, the kings of Pharaoh. Okay. Most of the kings are addressed as Pharaoh in the Bible. The Quran says the sovereign of Egypt who was king, whereas the Bible names him Pharaoh, but the king ruled during the time is Pharaoh, and so they get it right. Okay. So the sovereigns of ancient Egypt during were referred to as Pharaoh, so it's not consistent with the data. Okay. All right, cool. This would fit. Earlier rulers of Egypt. Okay. Simply named kings. Okay, so the Quranic use of king prior to Moses and Pharaoh at the time of the existence is justified versus the Bible's use of pharaohs across both periods. Okay, so sure. So this argument that Quran accurate use of the term king for the Egyptian ruler at the time of pharaohs is generally offered in response to common allegation that stories of the Quran were simply copied. Let's see. He claimed if the Quran copied from the Bible, I didn't copy the mistake. Okay, so yeah, all right. An erroneous amount of oftentimes seated back and forth. Okay. Hardly. Does it prove it? Okay, let's see. The data set. Here we go. All right, now we're talking. Yes. Let's see. The article is not meant to debunk the Quran. Whatever. The Quran is a much smaller book. Blah blah blah. Yeah. The Quran is actually portrayed literature. Oh, wait a minute. So it later depicts ancient Egyptian rulers as pharaohs and earlier rulers as king. But it actually only mentions two rulers of ancient Egypt. The Exodus pharaoh at the time of Moses is mentioned 128 times. Egyptian king at the time of Joseph. What's more, the single king at the time of Joseph is only mentioned 5 times, with an exceedingly brief passage within that. This is conveniently augmented. So it's only mentioned 5 times. Okay, but it's mentioned. So that's special. They got it right 5 times. That means something. And the biblical account mentions over a dozen different people, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's see. So the king of Egypt in the Quran is only mentioned 5 times. Okay, I don't care how many times it's mentioned. Is it correct? That's all I want to know. Let's see. I don't, okay, so they're saying that the convention being followed is proof that because it's a small data set. I don't care. Did they get it right? That's all I care about. Answer the question. Let's see. Okay. Wait. The Quran mentioning Joseph's king actually largely parallel the same section of the Bible in which the term king is used. Okay. But did they happen at the same time or whatever? The parallel specific verses of king, which is referenced whatever, especially, come on, tell me, is it right or not? Just say it. Just give me the answer. What do you have to go on and on? Just say it's wrong or right. Oh, my. Let's see. Yeah, this is the sort of study that's live. This is so interesting for the viewers, I'm sure. The Quran may have taken the term pharaoh to be the personal name of the ruler. So then they said king instead. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But what are the Jeez. When was the term pharaoh being used? Yeah, okay. It was being used during earlier periods. Okay. So, biblical pharaohs on the scene. Archaeology is deemed for the use of this term. So it was term used. Okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. Yeah, there's no evidence for the Exodus, so it didn't help. Okay, so there's little material from the period in Egypt's history, so they don't think it. But they okay. All right, so okay, they have the evidence of the pharaoh being used. Okay, so yeah, is the Bible in error? I mean, okay. So even if the biblical use of pharaoh is anachronistic, which is not really true because that term had been used for a long time, it doesn't represent error. Well, kind of could, but that's not the question. The question is if like they were right about it being a king and not a pharaoh. Like, were they right? It seemed like you're dancing around them being right about it or wrong about it. You're not just saying, "Hey, yeah, no, they were right about it, they were wrong about it." So I'm going to have to look at this further. This isn't a good. It doesn't answer the damn question. And then he mentioned the Rosetta Stone, but he didn't link to anything. Okay. Let's see. Nothing that let's see. Okay. So, all right, it's a debate. All right. So I don't have anything that shows me. I'd have to look up the Rosetta Stone. I'd have to look up what the Rosetta Stone says and when it said it. I'd have to look up when the Quran was written, and I'd have to look up it's such a whole thing to go into. It seems like they got it right by the skin of their teeth, if anything. I don't know that they got it right at this point. That said, like, they didn't want to say if they got it right or not. I'm welcome to say that they got it right. It's just I don't consider that miraculous, though. Like, okay, you got it right. Who cares? Like, why is that such a big deal? Like, oh, how could they have known? Because it's history. Like, they might have heard that the dude was a king, and the other guys writing heard that they're called pharaohs, or they're used to that term, so that term is more widely accepted, so they call them pharaohs. And it's just a difference in style of writing. It's not magical to know what happened in the past. If Muhammad was around that area and was hearing these stories, and he's like, you say Pharaoh, who's this Pharaoh? Oh, he's the king of the thing. Da, da, da. Oh, okay. Now I'm going to write down king. Like, it's not that hard to imagine how it got in there. This isn't why is this considered miraculous? It's not impressive to me. And it seems like more investigation is warranted. So Islam can be summarized very quickly. Full of made-up deity for free women, food, and all sorts of acts of overindulgence. And don't forget to destroy all non-believers. Well, that might be a summary. Okay. All right. So I don't really see that as a miracle. I think it's worth investigating a bit more because he made several claims there that would require investigation. However, on the logical route, 0 citations are offered for anything he just said. There are 0 links to anything to support what he said just then. So I have to now do the research myself. That's a bad argument. Your argument should have if you need the citations, and in this case you do, you're saying Rosetta Stone clarifies the matter. I need proof of that. They said the Pharaoh. Okay, that seems true. We've got proof of that. You said king. Okay, you said it 5 times. Okay, but you said it. All right, proof of that. When it was written, I don't know. I have to look that up. You don't have any links to any of that. So because you didn't give me that information, I could say I'm too lazy to look it up. I don't care. It's your burden to prove. You didn't give me sufficient ways to prove it to myself. So why should I bother? And I'm done, right? So that's why you should give your audience the citations to look into. Because I'm not just going to believe you. I'm going to look at the citations you give me. I might ask more questions about that, especially if they're only coming from Quran or Islamic websites or whatever. Just like that biblical archaeology website, they didn't want to admit that the Exodus didn't happen. They're obviously biased. They're biased towards the Bible being true. They don't want to say they said, yeah, they got it right 5 times. But I mean, that's not that big of a deal. I'm like, yeah, well, but they got it right. I don't know about you guys getting it wrong. I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in this. Did they get it right? And then the question is, well, how did they know that? Which is a different question. But how they knew that, well, somebody somewhere knew that they were called king. Otherwise, it wouldn't say it on the Rosetta Stone. So it's not impossible that somebody didn't know the right term and use the right term around whoever it was that wrote down the thing eventually. Whether that's Muhammad or somebody else, I don't know. I don't know who wrote the Quran specifically. I don't think it was Muhammad, because wasn't he like said to be illiterate or something? I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. I got to do more research. But he didn't research it for me, so I got to be skeptical of it, and that's my conclusion. There you go. I mean, if I wanted to research it, I guess I could. I don't know that I care enough anymore to do it. But I'm not really impressed by that miracle. It seems like I don't know how they could possibly find out the term. Therefore, it must be a miracle. It's an appeal to personal incredulity. Well, they could have heard it from somebody. There you go. Easy, mundane answer. Next.
Moses and the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, yeah? And the king. At the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, because when they found out that, how did the Quran know this? And they say the Quran copies the Bible. The Quran copied from the Bible. Yeah. Why didn't the Quran copy the mistake? And how did it know that at the time of Joseph, the ruler is a king? There's no pharaohs. How did they know that? That's not.
Somebody somewhere asked. They investigated it. They asked around. They wrote a letter to somebody and they got a response. They guessed correctly. Their term for Pharaoh is king. I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of possible answers, but you see that as a miracle. I don't. I just view it as, yeah, it's interesting that they knew the right term, maybe, but there's nothing to suggest that they couldn't figure out the right term to use. The Prophet Muhammad constantly cited folklore as his own stories, mainly lots of time now. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Yeah, like I this is me scratching the surface of Islam. You know, it's like I don't know anything about the religion other than, you know, I know that stuff that people have done, but, you know, I've never read the Quran. I don't plan to. It's probably boring. But the argument is the answer to this question of where's the miracle has so far been a paradox and an appeal to personal incredulity in regards to how could the Quran, as if the Quran was a person, know that this person was a king? Well, people knew that it was a king. If anyone knew about it, then it's not impossible to imagine that that information would have gotten to the right person to write down that it was a king instead of Pharaoh. So it could have been the writing convention at the time. I don't even know who actually wrote the Quran or when it was written. I don't have any idea. But to say it like, I don't know, you're saying what this guy is saying is, I don't know how this possibly happened. And I'm saying, yeah, I agree with you. That's an appeal to personal incredulity. That's an appeal to personal ignorance. I don't know equals must be miracle. I don't know. I can't explain it. Must be a miracle. It can't be anything other than a miracle. How else could they have known? So you're saying that like Allah's like, hey, Muhammad or whoever, write down that that guy's actually a king, because nobody knows that. Well, somebody's gonna write it down on the Rosetta Stone. Don't worry about that, dude. I'll make sure that that dude doesn't get information to you so that this can be seen as a miracle. I don't see it as a miracle. I see it as an appeal to personal incredulity or appeal to personal ignorance, both of which are logical fallacies. So we have paradox and we have logical fallacy. Those are your two miracles so far. I hope the third one's an actual miracle because I'm not impressed.
Number two. Number three, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Rum, قُلُبَتِ الرُّوم. The Romans have been defeated. The historians say the way the Romans got defeated by the Persians, it's impossible to think, let alone them coming back to win, for them to even exist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, the Romans have been defeated, but they are going to win. That's a big statement. That's like saying you guys together, we're going to take over USA and we're going to beat Trump. It's crazy. It's a big gamble. And after 3 to 7 years or 3 to 9 years, the Romans come and defeat the Persians. These are historical problems. These are just some. There are hundreds. I'm giving you.
Okay, so now that one again, I wish we had some links to verify it. We have to know when the Quran was written. Was it after those events occurred or before those events occurred? I'd have to look at the specific language. The Romans have been defeated, but they're going to make the comeback and then they're going to win. When? Is it a specific time frame given, or is it just a vague statement? Because if Rome hasn't been completely defeated, and you know that, and you also know that Rome has suffered defeats before, but it makes a comeback every single time, it's a pretty safe bet to make. Right now in the world, there's a couple different wars going on. Russia versus Ukraine and Russia, or whatever, Ukraine versus whatever they're fighting. I don't even know anymore. Okay, so I say, well, who's America is going to help? America is going to help Ukraine. Ukraine's going to win. That's my bet. Israel versus Gaza. Well, Israel's going to win. Why? Well, America's going to back Israel because we always have. So they win. That's what's going to happen. They suffered some losses. They're already pouncing on the other people. They've killed a bazillion more people than they got killed, so they're already winning in that sense, So they're going to, but they're going to win. That's my prediction. Pretty easy prediction to make. Considering the massive might of the military that the America could offer in that battle, if we sent over our military forces over there, we need to send one Marines, Army. We send them over, it's done. It's done. That's it. The moment we do that, the war's over. I don't even know that they need to fight per se. We just send them over and we're like, hey guys, we're here. We surrender. Yes, please. We're done now. We'd like to surrender. Because otherwise they get wiped out, right? Maybe they fight to the last man. I mean, that happened in the Gulf War, and all that. And we weren't even fighting the right people, apparently. All sorts of mistakes were made, and how we left that whole situation behind was a shame. Thanks, Biden. Jeez. That was just, I'm sorry. I don't like that we were fighting over there, but the way we left was just wrong, and just foolish and just poor leadership on everyone's part there. That's just a wreck. Anyways, whatever. Anyways, not that I like that we were fighting over there, but we definitely pulled out in the wrong way. Because we left stuff behind and whatever. Anyway, so to make that bet is a pretty damn safe bet. Rome eventually will win. Okay. So now here's what happens. Let's play this out as if it was, you don't know. You don't know if they're going to win or not. Rome collapses. Very unlikely. Now you're wrong. You don't put it in the story then. Duh. Well, if you're not, if you wrote it and it's too late, then it's stuck, right? Okay, but what's to prevent somebody going, ooh, that's wrong, and erase it and pretend like it was never there, and kill anyone that says, hey, remember that thing? Nah, there's nothing to prevent that. Nothing at all. So even if there was a mistake, you could get rid of it. There's nothing to stop that. But let's again pretend like the mistake happened. You could say, well, Rome will eventually return at some point, and eventually it will conquer them. Maybe you could say Rome is actually still around. Rome is the US, and they conquered them. So that makes it right. You could do all sorts of apologetics to make it fit. But I'm not really impressed by this idea that even if this was written before they made a comeback, that somehow is a miracle in your view. Because Rome had taken losses in battles. That happened. And Rome usually came back even stronger after that. That was like a common thing. In fact, it might have even been a tactic used by the Romans. They might have thrown a weaker army at their foes, knowing that they were going to take losses, knowing that they were going to have to retreat, because that does a couple of things to the enemy. One, it makes them spend resources on that fight. It's going to lower their morale to some extent, even though they've won. Well, you were retreating. That doesn't mean that they've won. They think they've won. Now they're taking a break. They're all relaxing. And here comes what the hell is that? That's the fucking army. What are they doing? We killed them all. It's bigger than before. What? Get ready. Hurry. They're coming. Stop eating. Stop celebrating. Here they come. Shit. They're here. They're bigger than before. What a devastating thing. You think you've won, and then here comes this giant army to kick your butt. You were like, oh, I guess we didn't win. They psyched us out. So it might have been a tactic of them. I'm not saying that it was, but it could be. We wouldn't. I don't think we might do that tactic today. Like send in. Well, actually, no. That tactic has been used in war. We were told about this when I was in the military that there was a story that there was a machine gun turret, and there was like 5 people. And the lieutenant says, you, and in this story, you are pointed at, because of course you are, because you're the guy that you don't want to be pointed at. Don't point at me. He's telling the story, but it's you in the story. He says, you go run straight towards it. This guy and this guy and this guy and this guy, they're going to run around it. You're going to run straight towards it. But I'm going to die. Yep, you are. But that's what you're going to do. And you follow the order and you die. But your team wins because you distracted them. They were firing at you. They couldn't fire at the other people because they were firing at you. You're more of a threat. You're coming straight at them. They're going to gun you down. You're going to be shooting them as they gun you down. Now, there's a small percentage that you might make it. Might be able to throw your grenade or hit them with your gun, but more than with your bullets and your gun, but more than likely you're getting mowed down. And I'm like, what the point of that story is? The point is you follow orders because you complete the mission. I'm not around to know that we completed the mission, though. I don't want it to be me. I don't want to be the guy that runs straight at it. Nobody wants to be that guy. But it happens. And we did that. That's a terrible thing. Isn't there a better plan? Maybe. I don't know. But that's, but it worked. And it was used more than once. So it's not surprising that there's a sacrifice play that gets made in war. But to view this like, oh, this is a miracle, I don't even see how you view that as a miracle or a prophecy or anything. It's like, yeah, They said they were going to win. So what? Did they say what date? Did they say what battle? Did they? I mean, no, it's just vague. They're going to win at some point. Yeah, sure. Some point. Or they're not. They're either going to collapse, which is highly unlikely, or they're going to make a comeback and they're going to eventually win. It's not even a prophecy. It's nothing. It's not impressive. And you said there's 100 more. And well, you pick those 3 as your best. Not impressed by any of them. So the last one doesn't impress me because, well, it does. It pretty much seems like another kind of appeal to improbability. Like I don't see how this could be that they would know that this would happen. They didn't know. They guessed. And they guessed right. It's a safe bet to make. It's not like the absurd bet that you made there. It's much more of a mundane prediction than what you're making it to be. So you have to be incredibly willing to be personally incredulous to hold that up to the standard of a miracle or a prophecy. I'm not. I'm not impressed by that. It's like, yeah, I don't even see it's a prophecy. It's like it's a guess at best. Yeah. What else you got? That's your best 3. So you got paradox, which that's hilarious. Then you've got appeal to personal incredulity and ignorance, and then you have kind of like an appeal to improbable situations, which is really another appeal to personal incredulity and ignorance. So you got nothing but logical fallacies. I'm not impressed by your answers at all. So I don't think that you've answered the questions really. I think that you've asserted a lot. I think that your answers reveal the logical fallacies you employ. But it's okay, Islam. It is. It's okay. Every religion does it. You're not unique in doing the logical fallacies. By the way, once again, if you're wondering, my real name is Rudolph Bonafanga, and that's my real name. So I'm going to display my real name right now. That's my real name, in case anyone's wondering. And I'm just using Deacon Birdman's account, but my real name is Rudolph. There's no way in pronouncing that last name right. And just in case you were wondering, yeah. So that's my real account, and I'm just on Deacon Birdman's account, just in case. All right. Julius Caesar never said thank you because he didn't speak English. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's true. The U.S. has an ugly track record of getting their asses kicked by sand people. Yeah. Sadly enough, that is true. It's just, yeah. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on there. I'm not a military expert or tactical expert or anything. I don't know. So Islam miracles. I had revelation. Allah wants me to shag your wife. Yeah. And then I shagged your wife. It's a miracle. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. It's like, this is what's supposed to happen. Hey, look, it happened. What a miracle. It's like, yeah, you made it happen. Like, I don't know. I'm not impressed. So there's more to the video. I think that's probably enough for now. I made my point. So there isn't, is he gonna, let's see, scientists and God, what's he, nothing there. Famous atheists, yeah, maybe I'll do a part 2 later, but I've said enough for now. I've gone on too long already. If these are the sort of answers to the hardest atheist questions, I don't know that atheists are asking these questions per se. I think there's a lot more difficult questions that I could ask. I'm not impressed with the answers. One, I don't think you really answered a lot of the questions. I don't think that you gave a lot of detail. I don't know why you wanted to do the 1 minute format when you broke that twice already. So I think it's silly to do that. Just answer the question. Just have the questions and then give the answer, To answer a question, I need to demonstrate why the answer is the answer. It's not it can't be enough to just say, whatever. Atheist questions is a weird kind of thing too. Like, yeah, I have questions and I'm an atheist, or well, I'm a skeptic, and because of that, I'm an atheist. So it's like, I have lots of questions. You're going to give me the answers that you believe, but that's not going to necessarily be there's a purpose of asking a question, and there's many purposes, but ideally is to gain information I don't have. I want to know why you think this is true. And in this case, your answer to why you think the Quran is true is you studied it. I don't know how long you studied it or what you mean by you studied it. And then you arrived at the conclusion that it was true. Okay. Did you try to prove it wrong? Did you look at stuff that would have proven it wrong? That is to say, did you challenge your confirmation bias? Now, I'll take myself as an example because it's only fair if I apply it to myself, right? I'm a skeptic. What does that mean? Well, different people have a different idea of what skeptic means. So it's what I mean by it is probably different than what philosophy might mean by it. Maybe it's not a good label. Maybe it's not the right label. I don't know. But this is how I think of it. To be a skeptic is to hold in question ideas that you don't have empirical evidence, repeatable tests, or a valid and sound argument for. So by holding in question or being skeptical of an idea means I don't know that the idea is true. I don't know that the idea is false. I have no opinion on the idea until I am given one of the three things that I am currently missing. The things that I'm requiring are empirical evidence, repeatable tests, and or a valid and sound argument. Those are the three things that I require. So one might say, okay, smarty pants, are you skeptical about skepticalness? Yes, you can do that. You only need to do it once, and then you're done. You don't have to keep running the experiment. Do I have a valid and sound argument that I need valid and sound arguments? Well, gee, yeah, because if I don't have a valid and sound argument, then I don't have a logical argument. And if I don't have a logical argument, well, then I don't know that it's true. What about a test? Do I have a test? Yes, a repeatable test. If I don't have a repeatable test, then I don't know if it's testable. And that's a bad thing, and I need to test it. So how can I test the idea that I need to test? Well, the test is if I don't test things, then I can't be sure that I just didn't witness a trick. Like, I watched Penn and Teller's Fool Us. I love that show. I miss Allison. Don't know why they replaced her. Bad move. Whatever. I see a magic trick. I know it's a trick. I know there's something that's not. I'm seeing something that isn't really happening. I'm seeing something that looks to be one thing, but it's something else. The coin is here. Now the coin isn't there. Where did it go? Well, it went into your hand at some point, and then you got rid of it somehow. I'm not sure how, because I didn't see how you got rid of it. But I know there's a trick. I know it's not you're just making the thing vanish, because that's not how reality functions. So the reason I need a repeatable test then is to see how that is done actually in reality, not what it appears to be. And so if I get multiple angles and I get in there and I'm allowed access to instruments, then I'm going to find out how you actually did it. So I don't want to be tricked. The whole point of Penn and Teller Fool Us is they know a lot about magic tricks. They know a lot about the mechanics involved. And it's, can you find some way to fool them despite their knowledge? Use their knowledge against them. kind of outplay them. They're used to seeing this trick done in a certain way. You do it completely different. They don't know that technique, so they don't know how you did it. So then you win. They don't know how you did the thing, so you make a new trick, and they don't know how you did it, right? So and that's the game, right? That's what you're playing to do, is you're beating their intelligence. But if it was fool the scientist, you would never win, because the scientist would examine your trick and your trick would fall apart, because of course it would, because it's a trick. So I know that repeated testing is needed. What about empirical evidence? Well, yes, if you can see the damn phenomenon, then at least you have something to go on. If you can't see the damn phenomenon, then you don't know what the hell's going on. So yes, that's true. So yes, I was skeptical about skepticism. It held up to its own standards, and it works. So now I get to be skeptical of all the other things. I'm skeptical of all the religions. I don't know why some people from this religion decide to kill other people. Well, it's in their book. That's probably a reason right there. But somehow the other religions, well, when it comes to Judaism, they only applied their laws really to themselves. Well, kind of, for the most part. They attacked some other places when God told them to, although it wasn't God, it was always them, but whatever. And they took slaves, and all that. So they did mistreat people to some extent. Even if they treated their slaves really nicely, you're still having a slave. I don't care how nice you're treating the person. Well, they could have been let go after a certain amount of time. Well, that's nice, but what kind of living are they going to get? They've been a slave this whole time. So how's that going to work? I don't know. So, but, and then Christianity, again, like they mistreated others. Did they do that based on what Jesus said? No, Jesus said, sell all your stuff. So it doesn't really seem like there's a lot there that can justify killing other people, even though people did do it. But maybe they need to get rid of that one part of the book that says kill people that aren't Muslim or Islam or whatever. And you get rid of that one part of the book, then nobody will be motivated to do that. And that would be good. Because, I don't want to be killed. I don't want you to kill anybody. If you're upset at me because I said something that you find offensive, let me apologize. But let's talk about why you're offended by it. If you're right, then there's nothing to be offended about. I'm wrong. You don't need to be upset that I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm ignorant. I don't know this stuff. I haven't read this stuff. I haven't read your book. I don't know what it says. So you're upset at me. I didn't know you didn't want me to draw your prophet. I don't know why. Why does that matter to you, what I do? Even if I'm drawing him a nice picture of him, you're going to get upset? Even that? Why? How does that hurt you? It does nothing to you. And I don't know what the guy looks like, so I don't know how to draw him anyways. But why be so upset by that? What does it hurt you? And however I view Muhammad, peace be upon him, shouldn't make you so mad that you want to hurt me for it. It's just an idea. It's just words. Who cares? Call me a poopy head. And then that's that. We're even. Draw a funny picture of me. Then we're even. I don't know. But why? I don't understand why, even if it's in your book to do it, I don't understand how that's enough motivation for you to do it. I don't get it. I don't understand that. I don't know where that anger really comes from. You're told that that's what God wants you to do, and so you believe it? Maybe. But maybe that's not what God wants you to do. Could it be that they're telling you what they think, and that the real God might be Allah, but maybe the real God doesn't want anyone killing anyone ever? Maybe the real God wants us all to get along. I can't convert if I'm dead. Win me over with logic and reason. Win me over with facts and data. You don't need to hurt people. You're just driving people more further away from you, or from your religion, from your beliefs. You're not drawing them in. And I know that these people, they want to have good lives. You know, they want to have, you know, a life worth living. But I guess that a lot of the people are told, maybe from a young age, God has a plan for you. Here's the plan. You're going to get killed in a war for God. And if you do that, you get all these cool things after you're dead, because you're not really dead. Looks like you died, but you didn't die. This is God saying to do this. You're going to get these rewards. God is right because God is objectively moral. And we covered objective morals last time. Here's the problem of DCT. God says you dying in a holy war is the best thing that you could ever do. That's what God says. So therefore, that's the best thing that you could do with your life. Okay, I'm gonna join the military because I want to die in a holy war. How easy is it for somebody to say, "Hey, look, that group, yeah, you're in the army, sure, but this isn't the holy war. I know where the holy war is at. Our group, we've been fighting the holy war this whole time." Oh, really? Tell me more. Yeah, we're gonna take over these planes. We're gonna crash them into these buildings, kill a whole bunch of people. That's pretty damn holy right there. And nobody's gonna forget that. Everyone's gonna remember our names forever. And we're gonna go straight to those promises because we died in a holy war, the most holiest war ever. And you go, oh, that sounds about right to me. And they go, not only that, but you know what? We're gonna give anyone related to you money if you do this. That's a pretty big and damn incentive. It's like, even you believe already you're getting a reward, but now you know that there's financial compensation involved. And then you know, maybe they say, oh, look, if you don't believe us, ask, all these people here, and here. And maybe you do ask and you find out, yeah, it's true. They do pay off your friends and family. They're better off for it. They missed the person that died, but they're like, oh, yeah, they died, but we got all this money. And you're like, okay, I'm going to be part of this group. And so then you find yourself boarding this plane. You find yourself standing up and holding everyone hostage and taking over the plane. And before you know it, you see the buildings coming closer, and you believe every second that goes by that this is the holiest, best thing that you could have ever done in your entire life, and that God is waiting for you with open arms on the other side. And in a few seconds, you'll see God and you'll get all these rewards, and that this is the most moral thing you could do. This is morally objective because that's what you've been told your whole life. And you believe it. And you die for that belief, taking other people with you as you do so. And there's no point when you ever waver from that belief. And you simply are dead. And your friends and family get the money because that's what they do. They're true to their word. And you're dead. And you don't get to find out if you were wrong or right because you're dead. You don't get to know anything anymore because you're dead. Because that's it. There is no you. You stop being because there isn't. Death isn't you. You are here and now. What about an afterlife? What about it? I don't know that it's a thing. There's no guarantee of that. And there's no guarantee that they got the right way to get to the afterlife. Everything that I know in science suggests that this is it. I don't like that. I really don't. I hate it. It bothers me. It does. I try to think about it and I can't wrap my head around it. But I have to accept that that's probably the case. I don't want it to be, but I can't do anything about it. But I want to live long enough to discover that I'm right or wrong about ideas, and I can't know anything about beyond my own life. So any and every claim made about an afterlife is nothing I could ever hope to verify. And you can say, well, God told me. You don't know that unless you have some actual proof of God, which you don't. You have logical fallacies. I don't want you guys killing each other or anyone else. I think we humans can do better than that. Even if we think that that's what God said, I don't believe that. I can't believe that. I can't believe that any God would ever want any of us to kill anybody, ever. If God loves, then he doesn't want that, or she doesn't want that. It doesn't want that. There's no way. Not that I believe in God, anyways. But if there is a God and it does love us or care anything about us, it doesn't want us to hurt anybody else. So then, if you're told that God wants you to hurt somebody, that can't be the real God. Then, if there is such a thing, God is love. Great, act like it. Don't kill people. Don't hurt people. At least not deliberately. If you do it accidentally, that's different. But, try not to. I don't know. Will logic and reason prevail in the end? No idea. I don't know. All I can do is put it out there and point out the fallacies, point out the problems, and say to the possible Islam person or Muslim, the person that follows this religion, hey, look, I'm stupid. I'm a moron. I'm a nitwit. But please, just attack me with words, not any other way. Because if you're going to win, do it with reason and logic. Not with your fists or weapons. Because you didn't really win the argument if you do that. Like a boxer. Let's say we got two boxers in a ring, right? And they're like, one's like, the sky is blue, and the other's like, no, the sky is black. Well, they're both kind of right. Depends on the time of day. They're like, we're gonna fight to determine who's right. Well, it doesn't matter who knocks out the other one, because they're both right. Or like the one says 1 + 1 is 2. The other's like, no, 1 + 1 is 3. If that guy wins, that doesn't mean 1 + 1 is 3. He just won the fight. That doesn't make the other guy wrong. Anyways, such are my thoughts. And again, if anyone is curious, my actual real name is Nerdy Rodent, and or Sandals is my actual name. There's my actual account. There's Sandals is my real account. I'm just using the Deconverted Man account, and that the real me is Nerdy Rodent or Sandals or somebody else. It's not me. So yeah, just in case. Also, peace be upon you, and peace and love to Muhammad, and Islam is actually correct. Actually, now that I think about it. So thanks for watching. Until next time, lobsters exist. If I'm wrong, then lobsters exist. If I'm right, also lobsters exist. Maybe this is why people stopped covering Islam. I don't know. Bye. Hopefully not by
hopefully I'll be back. We'll see. I don't know. Actually, my real name is I'm going to tell you my real name.